Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to our video, and we are from the third group, and today we are going to explain about Quasi Experimental Research Design. And the Honorable our lecturer, Ma'am Dr. Eny Syatriana MPD, and my group members are ASTUTI as the first speaker, HASRIANTI as the second speaker, and I am NURHIDAYAT as the last speaker.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, my name is ASTUTI, and here I want to explain about quasi experimental. What is quasi experimental? Quasi experimental that have treatments what can measure the experimental units but do not random placement. In field research, usually used a quasi experimental design. The design does not have strips, restriction or randomization, and at the same time it can control for adapts to validity. It's called quasi experiment because the experiment has not or does not have the characteristic of an action or experimental design because the variable that should control manipulator. And the purpose of quasi experimental estimate for experimental condition and where is not possible control or manipulate or relevant variable. And this study reveal a causal relationship by involving a controlling by group and addition the experimental group, but and the separation to group is not random by technique and experimental research relationship clarify and cause on even and but. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is ASRIANTI. Well, I will explain about the design in the Quasi Experimental method. Non-equivalent design group. The non-equivalent group design is the most frequently used design in social research. It is structured like a post-tense, random pretest experiment. B. Pretest and post-tense design. Pretest and post-test design of the many actual experiment design, the pretest post-tense design in the preferred method for comparing group of participants and measuring the degree of change that occurred as a result of the treatment. The pretest in post-tense design grow out of a simple post-tense only design, and some problem arose with assignment and the allocation for participant to group. C. Regression discontinuity design. For most people, regression implies reversion back or forth to a more primitive previous one-way discontinuity denotes no or plural speakers or shift in what unique or their views be some more continuous process. The RD design has not been widely used in social research. RD design have great potential for program evaluation and research. Okay, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, now I want to continue the material. I will explain about sample and population. Population is the subject of research, while the sample is a part or representative of the population under study. So in this understanding, the researcher determines that the population is all the students from one institution, and the target population is from two classes, while the sample is part of the population or part of the target population. Okay, the next is technique of collecting data. The process of collecting sample is known as sampling. So here, sampling helps a lot in research. So this is the most important thing that determines of our result in research. So here we're using a sampling technique, especially a random sampling technique. So we're collecting the data using randomly. For example, the sample was taken from purposive sampling. So purposive sampling, according to Sugiyama, is the sampling technique that is included in non-probability sampling. So purposive sampling is a sampling technique that based on certain considerations. Okay, the next is processing data. So processing data in research is used quantitative data processing. So according to Sugiyama 2010, reveals that quantitative methods can be interpreted as research methods based on philosophy or positivism, used to examine certain populations or samples. Data collections using research instruments. Data analysis is quantitative or statistical with the aim of testing hypotheses that have been established with which has been set. Okay, using data collection techniques in the form of test and observation in processing quantitative data, the data conducted by the several kinds of tests, and we have four kinds of testing here. And the first is normality test. The technique used in this normality test is the chi-square testing technique. So this technique used for determine the population based on the sample of data is distributed or not. So the steps for testing the normality of the data of chi-squares are as follows. First one is summarizing the data for all the variables to be tested in from normality. And the second one is calculate sum, mean, standard deviation. And formula for this normality test shown in this slide, as you can see here. Okay, we are going to the second test, and the second test is homogeneity test. Well, homogeneity test was carried out on variance of two classes, and there are two steps of homogeneity test that are: the first step is determine the variance of the score gain data obtained by the experimental class and control class. And the second step is calculate the value of f using equation. And homogeneity test formula, it shows in this slide, as you can see here. Okay, the third test here, test similarity of the two means. So it means here used the formula for the significance of the difference between two independent means with a small sample, because the samples here in each research class are less than 30 and the variance are almost the same or homogeneous. So the similarity test of the two average on the pretest result is intended to see the average initial critical thinking ability of students in the control group and the experimental group before being treated. So the similarity test of two means can be calculated in the t-test or using the t-test. So the t-test here has the formula, and it is shown in this slide, as you can see here. Okay, we are going to the last test, that is test difference of the two means. Well, if the sample comes from a normally distributed population and the population variance is homogeneous, the next step is to test the difference between the two averages using t-test statistics. So the t-test on the two average difference test is used to test the hypothesis whether learning with the application of concept and attainment models using multimedia is better than conventional learning. So the number of sample of each experimental class and control class in the study is less than 30. So the test difference of two means here shows the formula in the slide, as you can see here. That's all the materials that we have delivered about Quasi Experimental Research Design, and hopefully you are enjoyed to watch our video and understand it. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.